Say Shana Africa, say it louder. Say Shana. Salam alaikum, assalam alaikum, salam alaikum, assalam alaikum, salam alaikum, assalam alaikum, salam alaikum. Assalamu alaikum.
United we stand, divided we fall. All we need is freedom. All we need is love. Free Africans free. Free Africans free.
Free from slavery. Free from slavery. Free yourself from mental slavery. Free yourself from mental slavery. Free yourself from mental slavery. Free from slavery. Free from slavery. Yeah.
We're here to speak the word. We're here to stop the war. We're here to speak the word. We're here to stop the war. We're here to speak the word. We're here to stop the war.
Salam alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Salam alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Salam alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Salam alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum, African one. If you wanna be free, the most simplest one in the world. Get yourself the better with the reggae music coming straight to you from the one of the most peaceful man. So many lying down on the streets, whatever them we are dancing at the ends. Get yourself the most free time. I preach about freedom. Preach about freedom.
We're here to speak the word. We're here to stop the war. We're here to speak the word. We're here to stop the war. We're here to speak the word. We're here to stop the war.
Better look on the street as a lesson, youth. Stop violence as a lesson. You have to listen and be a man. The music we are doing is not a music for fun. We are preaching, hear it loud and clear. Ain't night and day, no slipping it out. Better preach, let the people hear. Better preach, let the people feel. The sound of freedom and love. The sound of freedom and love. The sound of freedom and love. The sound. African one love. All right, good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you tune in. This is Concerned Citizen of South Sudan. We are live. It is Tuesday, September 23rd, 2023. Today, our program, President Salva Kiir has signed the controversial Election Act 2012, amended in 2023, which has divided the parliament last week into law on Tuesday, September 23rd. The Aside Act was endorsed by 210 MPs out of the total of 555 MPs in the upper house. The endorsement process of the act was boycotted by 340 MPs in protest against the undemocratic manner in which it was passed.
In this show today, we shall see in our analysis what would be the political consequences of the signing of this controversial act into the law by President Salva Kiir. Also, the Minister of Finance and Planning made a statement on Tuesday, September 26, 2023, which is yesterday, in which he had apologized to the civil servant and members of organized forces for the delay of 3 month salaries, July, August, September 2023, respectively. We shall also look into the excuses the minister gave as a reason behind the delay of the salaries in our discussion. At the same time, the minister made a clarification on Caltech Oil Company, which caused an embarrassment to the presidency and the press secretary in the office of the president after publishing a news story which had confirmed the government signed a deal with Caltech Oil Company. Meanwhile, the minister said that no deal has been signed with the US-based oil company, which has turned out to be Emirates company based in the United States and not an American company, as it was alleged by the president through its press secretary. We shall also make our comments on this and give you more analysis. Also on the program today, there is a row between Jonglei state government and teachers union over the funds allocated for education, while the youth from Azande community are urging the president and vice president to reconcile the Speaker of the House, the Speaker that the constituted Transitional National Legislative Assembly, with the governor of Western Equatoria State. And you know the history. We did talk about it here on this platform. In a related development of the event, the lawmakers and the reconstituted Transitional Legislative Assembly asked the Speaker of the Assembly to summon the Minister of Information and the official spokesperson of the government, Michael McQuilwet, and you know what Michael McQuilwet always do, over the statement he made on Friday, September 22nd, 2023, in a press briefing that the reconstituted Transitional National Legislative Assembly does not, I say it again, the reconstituted Transitional National Legislative Assembly does not represent the will of the people of South Sudan. The statement by the government spokesperson caused discontent and fury in the parliament. The Speaker of the Assembly told the lawmakers that she didn't hear what the government's spokesperson had said and asked them to put it in writing, in a writing form, so that she can summon him for clarification. In another political development, President Kiir has appointed the former Minister of Defense and Veteran Affairs, Madame Angelina Tang, as a new Minister of Interior, after relieving her on Friday, March 3rd, 2023, and swapping the two ministries, a move which was considered a violation of revitalized peace agreement by the SPLM-IO and rejected it then. SPLM-IO rejected that move on that time. President Salva Kiir then appointed General Cholton Balok as the Minister of Defense and Veteran Affairs, but the SPLM-IO could not name a candidate for a Minister of Interior since March 2023 until a decree of appointing Angelina was read out yesterday. The question is, did the SPLM-IO finally secretly accept the swapping? We shall discuss this tonight on this program. Also, the United Nations mission in the country said that 395 civilians killed in the country in the second quarter of this year. This is related to security and how stable the country is, and we shall discuss it in details. Also, in the bulletin number 7, the two neighboring countries, Kenya, Uganda, are once again advancing into our territorial integrity. We shall look into the reason behind this new development. With that, I welcome all of you, the viewers of Concerned Citizen of South Sudan, wherever you tune in tonight. Show and share our live broadcast here on Facebook, on Clubhouse, YouTube, until, to reach South Sudanese who are not watching our program tonight. We are live, as I said, simultaneously from Facebook, YouTube, and Clubhouse. With that, I welcome all of you. Please go ahead and share our live broadcast, and don't forget to subscribe our channel on the YouTube as well, so you can get every new video that we are, bringing. Before we start the discussion, though, I would like to play clips. As I read here for you on the bulletin of our program, that actually the spokesperson of the government, the Minister of Information, Michael McQuail, he made it clear that actually the parliament, the reconstituted parliament, does not represent the people of South Sudan. And that's why he made it clear they should go, because they are not representing the people. Meanwhile, members of National Legislative Assembly are so disgraced with this comment that made by a spokesperson, Minister of Information, Michael McQuail. I wanted to play that clip so you can hear it, and I will make my comment on it. And also, we will move ahead to the statement issued by Minister of Finance, Dr. Barnaba Bak, who had apologized to civil servants, organized forces for the delay of the salaries and why it's happening. With that, let me go ahead and play the clips, and then we shall have this discussion. Please go ahead and share our live broadcast. And thank you. Let me do this.
Plus the Council of State, which is 100, that makes 650. Are these the...
Let me go here.
This parliament now, which is 550, plus the Council of State, which is 100, that makes 650. Are these the representatives of the people? Were they elected? What I know so far, only 170 or 171 were elected in 2010 for the National Assembly, for the state, for the Regional Assembly, because by then we were a subnational, and 96 were elected to Khartoum. These are the people who were brought here. I think we were talking of elected people. This is the number that was elected, who are less than half of the membership. These people, the current parliament cannot represent the people does not represent the people of South Sudan, and as such, they need to go. We need to go for elections. The people of South Sudan should be given the opportunity to elect their representatives, and it is the representatives of the people who will come and pass the constitution, not us. So what we are saying is that the current constitution-making process, yes, will continue, but we will continue with elections according to the current constitution. We will amend the current constitution so that it gives us the power to elect. The body that will be elected will be a constituent assembly.
On Friday, the Minister of Information was having a press conference. He was talking that the parliament is not representative of people. As a spokesperson of government, he will speak what the government agree in the Council of Ministers. The Minister of Information, Michael McQuail, is still misleading the public with the wrong information. I want to know what he talking about all the time in the media. It is that government agree or is his own view?
This question which has been raised is very important question. Makui went on media and he disqualified and illegitimate this assembly. This should be a motion without notice. So that Makui came and explained here. He has to come and explain. We are representing people, and he is if also all the same. He's a member of parliament. He is representing his own people in this assembly. Why is he illegitimating this assembly?
You have heard it. We have been prejudged when we said for a very long time that actually this National Legislative Assembly are appointee. Here you have it now, Makwelwe, the spokesperson of the government and the Minister of Information, saying it clearly that the National Legislative Assembly members are not representative of the people. Why? Because they are appointee. Though he made it clear that 170, they are legitimate, because when we were region, the Southern Sudan by then, when the election was conducted in 2010, then those who were elected from their constituencies, 170, those are legit. But other than that, those were appointee, because we did not have any election, in the country by all this time. So actually, the question that, we can ask tonight, if you believe that this August House is illegitimate, as some member reacted to his statement here, and they are saying that, why Makwe is saying that? You should not say that. Is Makwe really representing the government? Is he from the government, or his own ideas different than the government that he's a spokesperson of? You saw two gentlemen, they have spoken clearly, and they did not like that. They call it, this is delegitimizing the National Legislative Assembly. So this is the same Makwelwe last time saying that, or backing the 5% controversially that was put on the act, that actually this is to protect the minority. And that 5% actually, it would be appointee, it will not be elected. So now you can see the contrast between the two statements. Is he really genuine? So now he's saying that, yes, I agree with him that actually majority of this member of the National Legislative Assembly, they are not representing people. They were appointee. And that's why they always do what President Kiir asked them to do. And they don't even some of them, they haven't had an opportunity to visit, the people that they claim to be representing, their respective, constituency, what they're supposed to be represented, because they did not make any campaign, they did not campaign whatsoever in their constituency to be elected to come and represent people at the National Legislative Assembly. But they were appointee. So you can see there what we have been talking about all along, what we have been saying, we were correct. And that's why it was Sunday, I believe so. Yeah, 2 days ago when I conducted a show here on Concerned Citizens of South Sudan and talking about the very important issues, I said, actually, the notion that the government is saying those who disagree with 5%, they are trying to deprive the minority. That's not true. That's so absurd. Because why I'm saying that not true? Because we have said actually a census, a credible census, supposed to be conducted in the country, so we can, draw a geographical constituency, so we can know exactly how many people within the district. By saying, Makwe saying that, oh no, we need, because there are some tribe or some communities, they are not on the level of what? They are not on they cannot even make a constituency. How do you know? When we make a census, how do you know that that community or this tribe is not going to make a constituency? Did we agree on that? We did not. And that's why censuses are very important, because when you have census, you will know exactly what number of the people. You cannot just go ahead and you wanted to do election based on some on census that was done 14 years ago. Yeah, 14 years ago, election of 2008. I guess, yeah, 15 years ago, I believe so. 15 years ago, that's the one that you go upon. Do you know in 2008, there's a lot of people. Those who were 18 years old, those who were 15, those who were 10 years old, they become an adult right now. They become an adult. Even if we were having some constituencies that are not enough to make constituency, you have a growing population in these areas. Leave alone those census were not credible. They were done in a rush because we were going to go through a referendum. So someone who was really 5 years old in 2008, how old is he now? 5 plus 15, he's 20 years old and he's eligible to vote. Somebody who was 7, somebody who was 10, somebody who was even 3 years old. At 3 years old in 2008, now they are eligible to vote. You almost have 2 generations and you want to cut them off. So we were right. Whatever we say, you need to conduct a credible, census, because, and that's why I keep saying that a minimum standard for an election to be conducted, that's what it requires. Because there is no way you can do an election from a blue and saying that that's a credible election. Now you come to our census, indicating that those who are in parliament, they are not representing people because they were appointee. The only 170 members who are in parliament, they are legit because they were elected through their constituency when election was done in 2010. So it is necessarily to do census in the country so we can have a credible, number. And then based on the population that we are going to have count, and then we can draw a districts. We can draw a geographical district, because you cannot just wake up from sleep and say, oh yeah, we're gonna think that we're gonna have 250, we're gonna have 320 districts in the country. What is that based on? You cannot just create district from nowhere. You have to create it based on the population, based on the population that you have, based on the census, because soon you know the population, then now you can go ahead and create a district. And we can agree, the country can agree that how many people, how many per district? Do we want to make it 50,000? Do we want to make 30,000, 100,000, 200,000? That's up to the country to decide. And that's what you call transparency. That's what's called transparency. I know this process and I know exactly how it works. Now I'm going to, confessing that actually those who are in parliament are not representing the people. And that's correct. They are not representing the people. At the same time, he wanted to push the ideas of 5%, which is they will be appointed by the president, whether Kiir or Ghero, but they are not going to be elected. So that actually undemocratic. So I don't know where you're coming from. So you are agreeing here, they are not legit, and then you are agreeing on the other side, which will give President Kiir a upper handed, and you would say, oh, no, it's okay, actually we are protecting the minority. But in reality, it's not a protection of minority, because protection of minority will come based on when you do the census. And then we exactly will determine how many, constituencies we wanted to have. And we can even bundle some constituency together, because if you have lack of population here, then you can bring these from here and this from here, and then you can combine them, and then they can make a district, and that's fine. That is fine. But you cannot come with an idea that, oh, well, there is something that done in Kenya, they do this, and then we're going to copy. There is something that done in Tanzania, and then we are going to copy. That's what got us to the situation that we are in now. Last time you went ahead and copied whatever they call it, Council of Kikuyu in Kenya and Council of whatever in Tanzania, and then you brought it to South Sudan, and then now we have all problem, Young Council of Elders, and so forth. You don't need to copy things that don't work. Whatever worked for other nations, it will not work for us, and that's why we have to be credible, creating our own system that will work. Yes, we can learn from others. We can learn, and we can take great example. But you cannot go backward. You cannot go backward. So, my dear brothers and sisters, you have heard it. When we are talking about the credible election, these are the process. What I mentioned to you, this is the way that needed to be done. Otherwise, we are in a mess, and we continue to be in a mess. Deng Didayok 2 days ago exactly said that, signing this controversial law, it will be a declaration of war, because now people are not on the same page. The member of parliament are not on the same page. First vice president, he didn't want it. The partner of the peace agreement, they disagree. Some from SAWA, some from IO, some from even within the SPLM, they don't agree. But what I know so far, President Kiir is always thriving, when there is a division. That's how he governed. And I knew he was going to sign, because he liked something that divides people of South Sudan. And this is how he has been governing this country for a very long time, for the last 18 years. That's how he is. So this is very unfortunate, but people of South Sudan have to make up their mind and determine their destiny. Because with the way things are going, we are not going to go anywhere. And we cannot see the light at the end of the tunnel with Kiir moving this country with the way they are doing it. So that was a clip from Michael McWilliams. I would like to play it again, and then I will go to Minister of Finance, who apologized, for the delay of the salaries. And also, he made a clarification about the Caltech company, which is when President came here and he spoke at the National General Assembly of the UN, and Minister of Finance, after that they said President met with Caltech company, which is, they claim to be an American company, which is not true. And they post the content on the office of the president on Facebook. And actually we did the screenshot and we read everything and we said what they wrote there. But later they took it down. And actually we were saying that that's not true. This is not an American company. This company is based on in Sharjah, in Emirates, and they did that simply because they were in a diplomatic embarrassment. So they wanted to look better, that they have achieved something coming here to New York. Unfortunately, it didn't go well, and that's why the Minister of Finance has to come out and make a statement that actually we did not finalize and we did not sign any deal. You remember I talked to this a lot here on Sunday, and he made it clear that we did not sign any deal with any American-based oil company. We did not finalize anything. Anyway, you will hear it from what he has to say. But meanwhile, let me go ahead and put this up here so you can hear it in your own.
In regards to 3 issues. Thank you so much, gentlemen of the press. I called you to make a statement in regards to 3 issues. And I will start with the delay of salaries. I want to apologize on behalf of the Minister of Finance and Planning, to our civil servants, to our organized forces, for the delay that happened in paying July and August salaries. And I want to clearly say that the Ministry of Finance did not intend by any means to delay the salaries of our civil servants and organized forces. The delay happened because of 3 factors. First, the slight delay that happened during the discussion of the budget, the fiscal budget of 2023-2024. You know, it was supposed to be passed earlier, but it took a bit longer because of the discussion around the 400% and the 600%. Lately, it was approved by the end of July, and that means July was not paid. The other factor was incorporation of this increment to our payrolls. You know, we don't prepare the payrolls. The payrolls are prepared by spending agencies. And in that regard, all the spending agencies have been trying their best to incorporate the increment and adjust their payrolls, and then submission is done to the Minister of Finance for a final approval and payment. The other thing that delayed the payment of the salaries is the biometric system, and this is based on the Council of Ministers Resolution number 84 for 2022 for the adoption of the user and system requirement for the national payroll system. So the Minister of Finance, together with the Minister of Public Service, are setting up a biometric system for all our workforce. And that procedure takes a bit longer because we have to incorporate the data into a system. We have to also procure all the equipments and then now adjust the system for the biometric to take place everywhere in the country. We are doing this with the help of the World Bank. They are assisting us partially in this process. But that is the reason why we delayed in paying the salaries. There is no intent. We have not run out of cash completely to pay your salaries. We are following procedures to be able to pay you your salaries on time. And as I promised in my reception speech, I'm for the timely payment of salaries and wages to all our public servants and armed forces. There is no reason why you should suffer while rendering services to your respective institutions. It is our duty as the Minister of Finance to pay your salaries and wages. So we are keenly monitoring your conditions, and we are so much concerned about the suffering our workforce are going through. And in few days, we will actually be in position to pay your salaries. So that is a statement on the first item, the delay of the salaries. I want to make a statement also generally on the general economic overview. Since I came in, a month and couple of weeks, I have been trying my best, coordinating with all the relevant institutions, including the monetary aspect of the economy, the central bank, and we are working in collaboration and in harmony with all these institutions, including the Ministry of Trade, to make sure the prices of essential commodities in the market are affordable. We know the dollar rate keeps fluctuating, but we have managed to at least stabilize at a rate that is not appreciated. Of course, we are not happy about the rate, but you know, it goes through a supply and demand kind of activity in the market. So we need to be patient also. As we increase the supply of USD to the market, the price of the dollar will decrease. And as a result, a stability or equilibrium in our foreign exchange market may be realized. It may not be fast, but we are moving towards that. So we are working so hard with the central bank to make sure there is enough dollars in the market so that the parallel market does not act parallel even to our economic policies. We are also monitoring the conditions of our citizens in all the country, including the returnees that are coming from Sudan. We know they are going through a lot. And in that regard, I want to thank the Minister of Humanitarian and Disaster Management and other development partners that are working day and night to make sure our returnees are back to their homes and are fed adequately. So we are concerned as a ministry, and that is why we have been providing the little we have to the Minister of Humanitarian in order to be able to cater for transportation of our returnees. Generally, things will improve as we go gradually with our plans, the short-term plans we have put in place.
All right, here you have it. The Minister of Finance and made it clear he apologized regarding to salaries delayed. Of course, we have 27-month delayed, but now he's talking about even the months of July, August, September. They are not supposed to be delayed after he took, charge of finance ministry. But you know what? I want to give this guy a benefit of the doubt, because this young man, it showed that actually he wanted to work and he wanted to bring change, and change will take gradual, way of doing things. It's not going to be like 18 years that President Kiir has been in power, but actually has showing since day one that actually he wanted to do something. And I appreciate that, the idea that actually he keep connecting, he keep informing the public about any small thing that he's going through. It's not like, it's gone dark and quiet, and he's doing things, in the dark without people knowing it. Now, by apologizing, that's mean big thing, to civil servant, to the organized forces, to the people of South Sudan. At least they will know that he is, on the track. He is trying to do something for them. We can give him a credit for doing that, because he mentioned that actually there is a technicality that actually by matrix, and they wanted to bring system, the payroll system in the country. This is what I talk about in 2018, 2019, that actually we need electronic government. When you have such a system, and then those who have a ghost lease, they will write a ghost lease and go to the window and take other people's money. They will not be able to do that. So by introducing a system, a payroll system, actually is a brilliant ideas. That way, your money will be deposited in the account, or you will have like a number, social security, whatever you call it. And when you come with that number, you get your salary and you make a fingerprint. So Mr. Wall or Mr. Kwal or Mr. Galwak will not come after you and say, oh yeah, my name is Wall too. And then he will go ahead and grab that money, or a big general, who has a ghost lease, to go ahead and take salaries that does not belong to him. So I can give him credit for that, but they should have expedited the process. So these people actually, they cannot be waiting every time. They rely on that salary. If you are relying on salary, I'm working and I wanted to pay the bills, I want to pay my rent, I want to pay the water, I want to pay the food, I want to pay all this to my children to go to school. How are they going to survive? It's so difficult. That should be taken under consideration, and it's so vital, for somebody working to get their salary. But you know what? Again, I give him credit for apologizing and for saying that he's introducing system, and they are waiting actually to be approved from the council of ministers. I hope no one uncle there will say no, we don't want this thing to be done, because they turn out to find a way, of looting always, and that's why the government of South Sudan have been refusing for a very long time any electronic government. It was provided by government of Germany, but they refused, in 2008, they refused. They didn't want any, electronic government, because electronic government will tell you exactly the receipt, the location, the phone number, and when and who did it, with their logging in and all this information. So if you work in your shift, okay, and people, whatever money that came in your shift, they know exactly how much. You count them and you deposit it and you sign it, was under John Cormayor at this particular time, finished. And then next person will come and all the receipt with the numbers, okay, on their location. So nothing gonna be lost here. But those comrades, those generals, those government of Kiir, they refuse that, because they want to find a way, loopholes, so they can loot, and that the system actually supposed to be used with the revenue authorities, so they can track down who can take the money, who can take the public money. So that's what it is. Okay, and also, as I said, he mentioned that actually there was no deal between the government of South Sudan and Caltech company, which is, they made an allegation, putting them there on the office of the president page, and that actually we signed and we finalized $3 billion deal with this an American company. That's ludicrous. I don't know why they have to lie. Why do you have to lie? Because simply you got embarrassed. I did talk about this, and now we tend to be right, and we were right since day one. And I hope they learn their lesson. They learn their lesson. If you want to earn respect, and if you want to look good, and if you want to feel good, among the nation, then do right. Treat your people right. Do what needed to be done. So you can be respected, and then you don't have to be leaning down when you are going back home and just putting all bunch of lies to make yourself, better. So with that, I think these are the two items that I try to bring it to you, so you know exactly what we are talking about today. So this one, Mokwelwe, for those who miss it, I wanted to play that so they can get it.
This parliament now, which is 550, plus the Council of States, which is 100, that makes 650. Are these the representatives of the people? Were they elected? What I know so far, only 170 or 171 were elected in 2010 for the National Assembly, for the state, for the Regional Assembly, because by then we were a subnational, and 96 were elected to Khartoum. These are the people who were brought here. I think we were talking of elected people. This is the number that was elected, who are less than half of the membership. These people, the current parliament cannot represent the people does not represent the people of South Sudan, and as such, they need to go. We need to go for elections. The people of South Sudan should be given the...
Interesting. Michael Mokwelwe, the spokesperson, Minister of Information, tried to make an argument here, tried to back his case up by saying that this parliament is not legitimate. They were not elected. And he's right. 170 or 171 was elected. They were elected in 2010 election when we were a region, Southern Sudan with a small s, right? They were legitimate. They are legitimate, these people, right? But the remaining, so now how many we have? 550? 550 in lower house, and we have 100 in the upper houses, Council of State. So they are all appointee, right? All these are appointee. So he's right on that. But you cannot argue that actually these people, they were not elected, so they can go home and then we can do election. While you are also trying to say that, on the new election, when we conduct election and we finish the election, the president will have a right to appoint 5%. Does that make sense to you? That doesn't make sense, because now you are saying that they are not legit because they were not elected, and we need a credible election. We need these people to be elected so they can be representing people. Okay, I agree with you on that. But at the same time, you cannot come here and say, we must allocate 5% for the president so we can protect right and minority. And you did not do census. That's where we disagree here. If you want to protect right and minority, then we do census. And actually, my brother, Angela Tim, by saying that, a census is not important for the election, is important for distribution of the resources of the wealth. Okay, but South Sudan, since we became an independent nation, we did not have our own census. You got me? The census that we have, we were one of Sudan. We were part of Sudan. But now we got to do our own, to have a legit census. So we can have, look, since 2008, as I said, there were kids at 5 years old. How old is he now? He's 20. There were kids at 3 years old. How old is he now? He's 18. There were kids 10 and so forth. So are you telling me that we can leave these people out? We cannot create constituencies? We cannot add more constituencies? Are you telling me that? That doesn't make it doesn't make sense. And that's why it is necessarily, yes, to have a census so you can allocate the budget or distribution of the resources in a right manner. Because based on that census, you will know exactly Northern Barghazal, how many people live there. Based on that, we will be able to determine how many elementary schools do we need to have, how many high school do we need, how many hospital, roads, police numbers, all these things. it will be determined by the number of the people. But you cannot work based on number of 2008. After what? After 15 years. You cannot do that. And that's the argument that I make. And actually, it makes sense, but I don't know. Why are you not agreeing in the right thing? See, so Makwelua here is agreeing, and he's saying those people, they don't represent people because they were appointee, but at the same time, he wants to appoint. If you want to protect minority, let's do census, and then we can determine how many people we can have. One representative can, one member of parliament can represent. How many? 30,000, 50,000, 100,000, 200,000. We can determine from there, based on that. But you cannot just make it up out of nowhere and say, oh, well, we're going to go based on what we have in 2008. We were not even a country. We were a region. And now we are a country, right? I hope, you understand that. And plus the law that passed, actually the 5%, that law that they passed, it was like passed by 210. 210 is not even a half. It's not even a half. And any democratic voting anywhere in the world, it has to be 51 plus. So if you have a parliament of 550, what would be the half? A half is 275, right? So then you need 276. You need 276. But the number that I've heard that passed, they were 210. That is not even legit, because you did not even reach, 51 plus. So you have 210. That's what Gemma Nunes said. The House Speaker, the Speaker of National Legislative Assembly, that's what she said. She said the number of people passed this, 210. We caught a video. We have our tape here. That's what she said. So that's illegal when it comes to that. That's why we call it very controversial law. And President Kiir should not even sign that. But President Kiir is known for creating conflicts and dividing people. That's what he's good at it. And that's why he did. And that's why he signed it. So he can create more division. And people can be having more trouble in our country and no stability. And you can see there on that photos that they took yesterday, I did not even see the vice presidents. They were not there. They were not there. They were not happy. Please, they were not happy, of course, because this is not a majority pass law, right? 210 is not. It's supposed to be 276, because half of 550 is 275. But if you want to pass the law, you got to have 276. That means 51 plus, 50 plus. But this is not 50 plus. This is below half. How you sign that into law? How that become a law? It is not legit. Okay. So we have more to discuss on the program. Let me go ahead and jump to this. The United Nations mission in South Sudan said that 395 civilians killed in the country in the second quarter of this year. The year is divided in what? In fourth quarter. Okay. So first quarter, 3 years, 3 years. So it did mean the second quarter, the first 6 months of the year, we have 395 people were killed. That still tell you that our country, stability is still far from reaching it. We are still with insecurity in our country. Not too long ago, you hear what happened in Anuag land, that actually SSPDF were attacking the civilian, and actually they were killing the former commander, Joseph Kuny, on the area. That has sparked more violence with the youth and the SSPDF. So we hope this thing can ease, and that's why the leaders, are there to bring stability in the country. But the leaders that we have in our country, they are not interested in bringing stability in the country. Instead, they are creating more, violence in the country. All right. So that's one. And I know I have my guests that will come and weigh in more when they come here later. But I wanted to focus more on this though. And I did talk about this in 2017 and 2018. And I have been talking about this. I've been talking about Uganda and Kenya. Not, you know, my dear brothers and sisters, those who are watching here, concerned citizens of South Sudan, you know, we, the people of South Sudan, we supposed to be the dividends of the struggle. We're supposed to be dividends of the Republic of South Sudan. Okay. Today, if you go in this, in the roads in Juba or in Awil in other, town in South Sudan, you will see the sons and daughters of Matai, they are begging, and the widow are begging. But actually, that shouldn't be happening that way, because we're supposed to earn, the good result of the fight and the good result of being a citizen and being an independent nation. But unfortunately, that's not the time. And so what I try to tell you here, Uganda, Kenya, these countries in the region, their GDP have jumped up. Soon we become an independent, not only independent, when we become a region of South Sudan, and we were actually almost like an independent. We have our own budget, we have our own money, and all these things. So the Ugandans, the country of Uganda actually is benefiting more than the citizen of the country, right? And they have interfered a lot, with the policy making in South Sudan. And that didn't come from just a blue. It came as a result of having weak leadership in the country. Because President Kiir have relied a lot on Yoweri Museveni of Uganda. Has relied a lot on him, and he has been advising him, and he took everything for granted and held South Sudan as a hostage. Okay, South Sudan hostage. So with that, Uganda being autocratic regime for 40 years. So I said this in 2018, that actually didn't want to see any, new state, new country here to be a democratic and prosperous and have freedom of expression. And that's why he advised President Kiir, and President Kiir actually was willing, to be a dictator, and he advised him. And President Kiir moved to whatever, he has moved, and he started, creating his own parallel army, along the SSPDF, And that's why we have all this violence in our country. We have all more division in our country, because President Kiir actually, he never believed in South Sudanese who are, around him. His advice always from Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. So now we have seen what happened. Uganda start, invading our territory. It start, pushing and pushing. Why is that? Why is all this, is because they know South Sudan cannot do anything, because South Sudan most of the time rely on that Juba Normally road, for bringing their goods from Kenya to South Sudan, because we chose to be a country that dependent on oil and dependent on others. Instead of diversifying our economy, if we were become more agricultural country, Uganda wouldn't be acting the way he's behaving right now. But simply because President Kiir have given an okay for that, and depending on them more and rewarding them more, and that's why they demanded more. And they demanded more to extend that if South Sudan wanted to make any deal with any other country, they will try to push back, and they try to intimidate, South Sudan. And that's why you are seeing Uganda now is doing what it is doing. Many times he has been pushing, and many times he has been invading. And you have seen recently what happening in area of Kajukaji area in central Equatoria, how the Ugandan forces, they came in and they start setting up their camps. They want to make, they want to make that as their territory. But what government is going to do? They are not doing anything. They are not doing anything. And you haven't heard anything from the foreign ministry even talking about that, or the J1 talking about something like that. I've heard, this is based from Radi Meraya, the spokesperson of the SSPDF, saying that this issue should be left diplomatically to be resolved, right? But simply Uganda is doing this because more Juba regime move toward to make a deal with any other country, that's the time that they will come in and intimidate. And they have been doing this for quite some time. They've been playing it. Uganda has given DRC a lot of trouble, and they have given Burundi a lot of trouble. The only country that they were not able to influence is Rwanda, because Rwanda, they came out with the mess and they know exactly how to deal with the issues. Paul Kagame. So now South Sudan, the idea is that signing a deal with Ethiopia, and Ethiopia actually is supposed to be a strategic ally to South Sudan. Supposed to be our strategic ally. First strategic ally, because we have seen how Ethiopian have helped South Sudan, for decades and decades and decades, in 72, if you ask all this, the SPLM soldier, the former SPLM soldier, they will tell you exactly, how Ethiopia actually have backed people of South Sudan for a long time. And they are so friendly too, and they are honest, when they are making a deal with you. So it's simply because we have a bad leadership and we don't have, someone who care actually about this country, how the future should look like. So now Uganda is doing what they're doing because simply they felt like threatened. South Sudan is like their hostage. Their GDP in 2005 was like only $12 billion a year. Now, as I speak to you, Uganda GDP is nearly $50 billion. All this money coming from where? Coming from South Sudan. Coming from South Sudan. The employment, South Sudanese are employing the Ugandans anywhere, even the hair braid. Okay, they are Ugandans. Okay, that's fine, they can work, right? But President Kiir himself is paying Museveni. And how many generals and how many officials in the government building big mansions in Entebbe, in Kampala? What is that? If you are leaving your country and you're going to develop somebody's country, and this is the country that you have been fighting, for 22 years, what does that tell you? Do you think that person is going to respect you? He will not respect you, actually, because he will view you like somebody doesn't know anything. Why are you doing that? And actually, it was right when the Kenyan professor, Lambuba, when he said that South Sudan is a hunting field. South Sudan is a hunting field. It's a hunting field for our leaders, our officials. It's a hunting field for foreigners, because everyone can hunt here, come South Sudan and hunt a really nice deer and go and grill it somewhere and eat it somewhere. That's what happened exactly. They can take the oil money and they can go and eat them in Uganda. They can go and build houses in Kenya. They can go and buy big mansions in a foreign country. So our country become a hunting field. How Uganda is going to respect us if our president always seek advice from him when there is internal issues, when you are not unified, when you are not united within, when you have a lot of conflict within your country, because they know if our money, the defense bank account are in a foreign country like KCB of Kenya, what do you think? They know actually how many numbers of the soldiers that we have. They do know how much money we spend on them. Do you think these people are going to respect? They know actually where you're weakening, where your weak point. So Uganda actually can do whatever. Now South Sudan want to sign a deal. They did sign a deal actually, so we can have a highway, a highway from Ethiopia going through Upper Nile, coming from Pagak to Faluj to Malakal. Okay, that's a good highway, so we can import the refined oil, because you are aware that a refinery has been built. They're still doing construction of the oil. So South Sudan can refine oil locally. And I did talk about it 2 years ago, actually, about this, that we need to take Ethiopia as a strategic ally, so we can build a good highway connecting Ethiopia with South Sudan, so we can, export our refined oil to the neighboring countries. Now they are buying their refined oil from Dubai, from Emirates, from Saudi Arabia. But if we are refining oil in South Sudan and it's ready, and we have a highway that connecting us with Ethiopia, we will have many tankers, driving, going to Ethiopia. That will employ our people, to drive these tankers. That's the source of employment. And then Ethiopia is not going to buy oil from outside. It's not going to buy from Dubai. It's not going to buy from Saudi Arabia, from these Arab countries. They are going to buy from South Sudan. and we can exchange more here. We can benefit here, benefit from them, okay, and they benefit from us because we have already refined oil here. And this is supposed to be the plan from our leaders, but actually they neglect that and they chose to go with the wrong friend in the wrong way. I don't want to say that Uganda was wrong, but the behaviors of Museveni, we have seen it. We have seen it for a very long time, and this actually should be alarmed for very long. But Ethiopian, when they make a deal with you, they are honest. They honor that deal. Ethiopian is a country of 100 million plus. So what do you think? How much barrel a day they're gonna take for the refined oil? For their economy to keep their government running, their business running, is going to be huge. That's the country that actually you need to put in the top priority to have a business. And you can buy electricity from them too. Now, since they are constructing that Ranison Dam, why not? We can buy electricity from them in whole entire Upper Nile. It can lit up by the light by electricity from Ethiopia. We can pay them. We have the oil, right? See, and we can diversify this economy, and we can have a mutual interest with Ethiopia. But now, since there are people of goodwill, good heart now, when we have that economic conference with this young Minister of Finance and others, and now South Sudan want to make that deal to reconstruct that road. Museveni doesn't want that because he wants you to depend on one way, the Juba Numali Road. Okay, and always when something happens, you depend on him because that way it will know how to control you. But if you have another option, you have another road going east on the east side of northeast of the country, you will not care more about Juba Numali Road. You will not. You will use this and you will use that, and actually you will use it as a leverage too for the people to lower their prices. If their prices are higher, they have to lower it because you're going to use that highway. But now it started intimidating South Sudan, and that's why all the thing that they are doing. It's not because this town on the border are belonging to Uganda. No, it's just simply they wanted to intimidate South Sudan, and they will continue to do so, right? Plus, I don't know, many of you are not aware of this. There's an Israeli company, mining company, Israeli company. They have already in South Sudan, and they came, I believe so, with some helicopters to go and do like checking the minerals, because it said that in the report South Sudan actually has more than 20 kind of what do you call of this I don't know what the word mine kind of a mine that we have in our country, and this can be used in different aspects. So now they are knowing that South Sudanese are going to use this with other foreign companies. That's it's alarming to them because they don't want to see South Sudan progressing. They want South Sudan just only to depend on them. And if you are dependent on them, as I said, they will touch you from where it pain you see. And again, that's go to a weak leadership, that go to a bad governing that we have in our country. If we had a good government, if we have a good plan manager for our country, we wouldn't reach the situation that we are in right now. We wouldn't. And that's why they keep going and intimidating. Uganda will take piece of chunk of land here. Kenya will take piece of chunk of land because they know we are using Port of Mombasa, Port of Blamo. We are using Juba Numali Road. That's the only way. That's the lifeline for the Republic of South Sudan. You see, and that's the bad governing. But that's why we need change, because when we have change, we can plan our thing. We can have a government that care for the future generation, a government that care for this country. I think I did talk a lot, but there is a lot of issues we need to cover today. I would like, my brother Sas Dengir Ayok to weigh in as well, and later thing that I did not address, I can, make more contribution, and other South Sudanese who are really interested here today to weigh in, and we will allow them also to have their perspective. Sas Dengir Ayok, welcome to Concerned Citizen of South Sudan. I believe you are here, and I want to give you that opportunity to weigh in your perspective, please.
Thank you so very much, Brother Jonkor. Greetings to all our audience on Facebook, YouTube, and Clubhouse correspondingly. Before one could proceed to make comments on the issues of this talk show, one would like to express our sincere, heartfelt condolences to the family of late Member of Parliament, Honorable Agnes Kwajela Suba, also a former Minister of Gender, Social Welfare and Religious Affairs, and a Member of Parliament who has been representing Yei River County in the National Legislative Assembly over the last decade, and who passed on earlier this month in a Nairobi hospital. Honorable Lasuba is a mother, a wife of late veteran politicians, Joseph Oduho. Members of the constituted Transitional National Legislative Assembly paid their last tribute to her in the Assembly yesterday after her remains were brought home from Nairobi before she was finally flown to Yei River County to be laid to her final resting place. I came to know Honorable Agnes Kwaje when I was reporting the parliamentary activities for my Arabic newspaper of Al Masir in 2012 and 2013. From the way she had always spoken, she had indirectly showcased herself as a great intellectual and an asset to the country. Her knowledge and experience played a great role in shaping a lot within the government quarters. We would also like to express our heartfelt condolences to our sister Akwan Leon Garang, who has lost her father, Leon Garang Ding, 2 days ago, as well as to the entire family, relatives, and the Abium community of Awil East. The late Garang was a great family man, a father, and a senior citizen of our country. May their precious souls lay down peacefully in the land with the souls of the ancestors and forebears. Now coming to the issues of this talk show, we have the item number 1, which is President Kiir signing the contentious election amended act into law. He did this yesterday on the 26th. And we all recall that the parliament sat down on Monday, September 18, 2023, to deliberate this election act, which has now been signed into law, and there were differences over this. The law is designed in a way that gives the president powers to appoint 5% of the MPs after the 2024 elections, and that was rejected. And so the parliament ended up divided, and more than half of the membership of the House boycotting the session. You are all aware that we have 550 members in the National Legislative Assembly. And those who voted or who passed the law are 210 members. And in the parliamentary procedures, we have something called quorum. A quorum is a legal number by which a parliament can vote to make a decision on an agenda that is tabled in front of the parliament. So if you look at the number of those who voted is 210, and they are 550. The half of the house should be 360 something, 68 or 69.
Yes, 68.
And so the quorum was not met. And after some members or half of the house boycotted the session, it was passed, and then it was rushed into the office of the president for signature. And we said that the way or the manner in which the act was passed in the parliament was not democratic, because you have to allow the members of the parliament to express their views and opinion on the bill or the act. And thereafter, you can settle all those opinions by voting, by bringing the agenda for voting. And voting is always a democratic way of settling the issues that are tabled in front of the parliament for endorsement, especially controversial or contentious issues like the Election Act 2012, amended in 2023, because it is going to guide the whole electoral process in 2024 next year, if we are going to have free, fair, transparent, and credible elections in South Sudan. And we are all aware that the government we have in South Sudan is a government of conflict resolution, because the same government was divided over power in 2013. And then when the government was divided, the result was that the country was taken to war. And for the government to come together again, those who remained in power had to negotiate with those who became rebels. And so they had a government that is called a government of conflict resolutions. First in 2015, secondly in 2018. So this government we have in Juba is a government that came through an agreement, and the agreement is known to be an agreement for conflict resolution. Conflict over power. That conflict was resolved by forming this government. Now when there is a parliamentary sitting, there must be consensus on some of the things, or the voting must be carried on in a way that reflects democracy. After the MPs, the honorable MPs, are allowed to express their views and their opinion first. But this was not done in the parliament last Monday. The Speaker of the Parliament is a person who is so loyal to the President of the Republic and very loyal to the SPLM party. And of course, SPLM party is considered to be a major party in the government, followed by IO and then others. Now that the President has signed this law, which actually witnessed contention in the parliament, this one is a violation of the agreement, and the political consequences of such a decision could end up taking the country back to square one. We said this 2 days or 3 days ago here.
Yes.
Because we knew that the president was in New York And we speculated that once he returned back to the country, the first thing he would do is putting his signature on that law to authorize it as one of the laws of the Republic of South Sudan. And that's what he certainly did yesterday. So this one is a violation of the agreement, and at the same time, the political dissatisfactions which we witnessed on Monday, 18 September 2023, could lead in the long run into a political confrontation or a military confrontation. Of course, we don't wish that there should be war in our country, but this is we are saying this based on the political reading on how things are going on in our country. If it did not cause war immediately, it may cause war in the long run, especially if this issue of the election becomes serious later on and it's become a reality. Now there are questions to be asked. What next after the president signed this bill? What are the consequences of the signing of the agreement? And what is its impact on the electoral process next year? Can it be considered as a win for the SPLM-IG and a lose for the SPLM-IO? In my opinion, it is a win for the SPLM-IG because they actually made sure that the law in the parliament is passed in a way that guarantees powers for the president. Because if they lose in the election, the president would use that those powers that are guaranteed to him in the law to appoint members that are loyal to his party to be in the parliament. So it is a political win for the SPLM-IG and the leadership of President Kiir. And at the same time, it is a lose for the SPLM-IG because this is the violations of the agreement. And now that the law is signed, the act is signed into law, it becomes a reality now. It's become a reality, but the consequences are that with the growing dissatisfaction within the state, because this is a government of two political powers that are actually competing over power in the country. So the political consequences could be that this one can lead to political differences, and as we have witnessed over the years, political differences in South Sudan are not settled in a peaceful way or through dialogue. When you see the politician having their political differences, you become very much afraid. Why? Because if those differences continues, they resort to guns as a means of settling their own problems. And it is the civilians that becomes victims when they take the law into their own hands and fight themselves. So this could be the consequences. So I think this is what I can say about the law, the elections bill, or the act that the president has signed into law. That is number one. Now, number two, coming to the Minister of Finance and Planning, who made a statement yesterday. I would like to appreciate the language of the minister, Brother Jonkor. I agree with you. You appreciate him earlier. The language of the minister is a very good language. It shows that he is a man who is responsible and a man who acknowledges the mistakes. And in my opinion, the minister apologized for the delay of salaries of July, August, and the current month of September, because he's trying his best to make sure that the civil servants, members of the organized forces, and others receive their salaries on time. And during his reception speech, when he was received at the Minister of Finance, that's what he said, that he was going to ensure that the civil servants to receive their salaries on time. So after having realized that the salary is delayed for July, August, and now September, he had to apologize to the people so that he's in line with his own words during the reception ceremony that was carried or that was organized for him at the Ministry of Finance soon after he was sworn in to the office. So the apology by the minister is well taken, and it is very much appreciated. It shows responsibility that somebody feels that he falls short somewhere to meet the demands of his people, and therefore the right thing to do is to apologize and assure them that we are doing our best to make sure that you receive your salaries. Now he gave some excuses as to why the salary is delayed, and he gave 3 reasons in the video you played earlier. Excuse number 1, the budget making process in the Ministry of Finance and Planning and its endorsement in the Parliament is one of the factors that delay the salaries. Number 2, preparations of a payroll, which is not done in the Ministry of Finance according to what he said. So this one is factor number 2, which actually delayed the salaries. Reason number 3, setting up of a system. In his own word, he called it the biometric system, which was a resolution from the cabinet. And when I was listening to you before I come to Clubhouse on Facebook, you appreciated this point, Brother John, that we need an electronic system that would guarantee that there are no ghost name on the payroll. So these are the 3 reasons he gave as to why the salary delayed. And in my opinion, these 3 reasons are acceptable, and the people of South Sudan are good enough in terms of patience. People can still wait until the end of this month. They will receive their salaries. And in fact, when I was listening to the minister, I came to feel that his statement is in line with what we said 2 days or 4 days ago here. When we were analyzing the speech of the presidents at the UN General Assembly in New York City. We said that our civil servants are starving, members of the organized forces are starving, our diplomats abroad are starving, everybody is starving because there is a delay of salaries. And with him being a new minister in the office, and as a person who made a promise when he was being received at the ministry, he has to come out to the public to apologize and assure them that the salaries will be out very soon. If you look also at the delay of salaries and the way the minister is handling it, you can come to the conclusion that this minister is, of course, a new man in the government. And within the government, there are a lot of challenges. So he's now leading, he's dealing with the internal challenges within the government. And one of these challenges, he talked about the budget, that the budget was actually delayed when it was being manufactured in the computers of the Ministry of Finance. And thereafter, it was taken to the parliament. And inside the parliament, it delayed for 1 month or more than that. You know, the budget in the Republic of South Sudan is supposed to be discussed in May and June, so that when you come to the 1st of July, you begin to use the new budget. But the budget was taken to the parliament in August. And that's why the salaries delayed. And this is one of the challenges that the minister is dealing with in the new government, as a new phase in the government. And so the promises the minister made during his welcoming ceremony at the Ministry of Finance and Planning are not going to be fulfill on time, I mean, the promises he made are not going to be fulfilled on time as long as there are tactics of delays within the government itself. So this is what I can add on the issue of the minister. Now we are still with the same minister. He also made another statement, and the statement which he made was a clarification on Celtic Oil Company. The issue of Celtic Oil Company actually caused a great embarrassment to the presidency in the Republic of South Sudan, and particularly to the press secretary in the office of the president, after they published a news story on Facebook, on Facebook page of the presidency, saying or telling the public that there is an American company which has signed a $3 billion US deal with the government of the Republic of South Sudan to come and invest in the oil sector. And all of a sudden, it turned out that this company is not an American company, but an Emirates company that is actually based in the United States of America.
It's not even based in the United States. It's based in Sharjah, Emirates, but they might have branches here in the United States.
Okay, let us take it that way. Thank you. That is also valuable information. And so the people of South Sudan were deceived. The people of South Sudan were actually deceived through the presidency, and that one is a great embarrassment. Now, it was not us, the citizens, that were alone embarrassed. Everybody in the government was embarrassed, including Minister Bark. So he had to come out yesterday to make a clarification. And look at the language, Brother Jonko. It is called clarification.
Yes.
I think they are using the word clarification in a very diplomatic way.
Indeed.
In another word, we can say correction. He was actually going out to make
correction, yes,
a correction of the wrong statement that was, or the wrong information that was given out through the president, through the press secretary. Because that press unit, which is running the Facebook page, is under the press secretary in the office of the president.
Yes.
So what actually happened is a correction. What the minister did is a correction to try to clear the face of the government from that embarrassment which they caused to themselves. So in conclusion, you come to realize that the government was talking about something that she doesn't know. Because how come you say that we have signed a deal of $3 billion US with an oil company to come and invest in the country? The next day, it is the same government that is going out to tell the people that we have not yet reached a deal with that company. So it means that our government is not honest in brokering deals with the investors that can come to the country to invest, whether in the oil sector or in any other sector in the country. So the government actually deceived the people of South Sudan, and this one has tarnished the image of South Sudan. And the people of South Sudan would not trust in any deal that this government is going to broker or sign in the future with any of the foreign investors. So the people of South Sudan should understand now is that we have a government that is not honest enough to manage our resources with the right companies. They can bring in thieves, they can bring in companies whose identities are not known internationally to come and loot the resources of the people of South Sudan. And we condemn the government for that one. This is not acceptable. and we condemn it. So this is my take on the issue of the Celtic oil company, which is not an American company as it was alleged by the same government. Now let me go to item number 3. Item number 3, there is a row between Jonglei state government and teachers union over fund allocated for education. Now what is the point of row? The point of row is that the governor of Jonglei state, in a statement which is now circulating on social media, actually asked that the money should be put into an account that is not an account for the state government. He had been criticized by a lot of people that the account he had asked the Minister of Finance to put the money into is not an account, official account of the state government. And so people became suspicious. People are skeptical about this. And so the teachers union of Jonglei state came out with a petition yesterday on this matter. And without giving you more details, because I'm sure some of you have found that one, and the petitions of the teachers union is actually circulating on WhatsApp group and on social media. What we want to say here is that the government of Jonglei state should not put that fund allocated for education into a private account. It has to be put into the accounts of the State Ministry of Finance so that that money can be used for the purpose for which it was allocated. Otherwise, this one is going to be a corruption case and a corruption scandal that would stain the state government of Jonglei. So as we speak, there is a row between the teachers union who are asking for their rights and the government of Jonglei state. And we would like to ask the state government to come out with a clear clarification on this. What do they want to do with that money? Why are they channeling that money into private accounts? Why privatizing something that is public, something that is meant for education in the state? So this is our appeal to the state authorities that they need to come out with a clarification, and that the citizens, the teachers union actually receive their salaries. Because the governor of that state, Mr. Denay Jok Tagore, he is a great outspoken young governor in South Sudan. And he is always heard on so many forums, starting with the governors' forums last year, coming to the recently concluded National Economic Forum, in which he talked and pointed out that our citizens are depending on food that is donated to them by the international organization, especially World Food Program. And that the government should make sure that there is agriculture. And he actually contributed to the resolutions and recommendations of the National Economic Conference. So we would like to see a good governance in Jonglei state. We would like to see a government that is responsible, a government that can fight against corruptions and the corrupt officials. So, Mr. Governor, please make sure that this money that is allocated for education is indeed allocated for education, and that the teachers are receiving their rights. That is what we can say to the government of Jonglei state. And I hope the governor is listening. If he is not listening now, he should be listening to us later on. Now, coming to the issue of the lawmakers asking the Right Honorable Speaker of the reconstituted Transitional Legislative Assembly, Madam Jema Nunu Kumba, to summon the Minister of Information and the official spokesperson of the government over a statement he made on Friday, September 22nd, 2023, during a press briefing to the journalists. Makwe made it very clear that the reconstituted Transitional National Legislative Assembly does not represent the will of the people of South Sudan. And we said this year, last year.
Correct.
We said it that those MPs that are in the parliament were not elected by the people of South Sudan. They were brought in through the agreement, the 2018 September 12th agreement. They were brought in through that one, through an agreement that was signed for a conflict resolutions. So they are representing their political parties and they are not representing the will of the people of South Sudan. And so Makwe was right on that one. Now the members of the parliament are discontented and they are furious at Makwe. And therefore they ask the Speaker of the House to summon him urgently. So during the argument and in the video you played earlier, Brother Jonkor, one of the members.
Can I play it one more time? Something
by the name of John again. Yes, Jonkor?
Can I play it one more time? Because some people have missed it.
Yeah, you can play it.
Okay, let me go ahead and do it.
And it is the representatives of the people. This parliament now, which is 550, plus the Council of State, which is 100, that makes 650. Are these the representatives of the people? Were they elected? What I know so far, only 170 or 171 were elected in 2010 for the National Assembly, for the state, for the Regional Assembly, because by then we were a subnational, and 96 were elected to Khartoum. These are the people who were brought here. I think we were talking of elected people. This is the number that was elected, who are less than half of the membership. These people, the current parliament cannot represent the people does not represent the people of South Sudan, and as such, they need to go.
Okay, continue, Sir Dengdi.
Yes, that is it. So the current MPs are not representing the will of the people of South Sudan. And if there is a will that they are representing, it is the will of their political parties and not that one of the people of South Sudan. Now Makwe is saying that they should go. How do they go? They are going to go through elections. So the government is going to use election as a political mechanism for getting rid of this huge membership of the parliament. And that's why he said they have to go. And he said, let's go for elections. So this election is going to be used as a political mechanism or tool for getting rid of others. And this one is in line with the latest statement of the president when he said he's tired of the 5 vice presidents. And that we should go for election. This is the same rhetoric that Makwe is reiterating.
But Dengdi,
but what is strange about this? Yes, go ahead.
But is Makwe is not contradicting himself, because now he said they are not legitimate because they were not elected. They don't represent people of South Sudan. But at the same time, Makwe is arguing that 5% that would be appointed by the president is legit. When you make a contrast between two statements, what do you make of that?
Of course, this is a contradiction, Brother Jonko, but McQuay himself was defending the issue of 5% because that one is a political gain for their party. And therefore, you cannot criticize it or say something about it. Now, he's criticizing the huge number of the members that are in the parliament, and that election should be the way for letting them go. And that's why I said earlier that the signing of the law, the Election Act, is a win for the SPLM-IG and it is a lose for the SPLM-IO. At the same time, the statement of McQuay is controversial. Why? Because it is reflecting a contradictions. It is reflecting contentions. To the rest of the members of the government that were brought together by the revitalized RCS. And that's why you see members of the parliament protesting against his statement, because they understood that McQuay is saying that they are illegitimate. He actually illegitimized them. That's why they are protesting. And they call upon the Speaker of the House to summon McQuay. Then the Speaker told them, you need to put that one in writing, and we will call him to come and make clarification on the statement he made. So the statement is inflammatory statement. It shows issues of political conflict between the parties to the agreement. That what it reflects to the people or to the public, to the general public in the Republic of South Sudan. It shows political differences within the same government. It shows that the government is not in harmony. It shows that there are a lot of disagreements within the same government. That's what we can understand. Anyway, we are following the issue of McQuay, and I think up to here, my comments should come to an end. Let me go to the next item. The next item is a new political development that President Salva Kiir issued a decree appointing the former Minister of Defense and Veteran Affairs, Madam Angelina Tang, as new Minister of Interior. This, of course, comes after she was relieved on Friday, March 3rd, 2023, this year. And after she was relieved, Mahmoud Solomon, who was the Minister of Interior, was also relieved. And the IO was expected to nominate the candidates. But they couldn't do that because there was an issue of swapping the two ministries. The president taking the Ministry of Defense and Veteran Affairs and giving the Ministry of Interior to the IO, and the IO did not accept the offer at that time, because it was considered as a violation of the agreement, because the agreement actually designates ministries by name to the parties to the agreement. But all of a sudden, the president appointed Madam Angelina as the Minister of Interior. So the public is asking, what happened? If the IO reconciled with the idea of swapping the two ministries, after they protested against it and they counted it as a violation of the revitalized access? That is the question people are asking now. Another question people are also asking, why? Why again Angelina? Why not another one from the IO? Because we all remember that during the time Angelina was appointed by the IO as Minister of Defense, and those of CDR, James Kong, Scholl, and others were marginalized, it caused a major political defection in the camp of Mashar to the camp of Kiir. People were not satisfied and the SPLMIO was seen as a family enterprise, as a family business, and no longer a political party that was championing the cause of change to realize the aspirations of the people of South Sudan. The question now is, why Angelina this time again? Are there any political cadres within the SPLM-IO to be appointed into this position? This is the questions we are asking now. To my mind, we can understand that the SPLM-IO has come to a reconciliation with the idea of swapping the two ministries. And therefore, the president issued a decree appointing Angelina into these positions. And therefore, the issue of violation is no longer an issue here for the SPLM-IO. It is an issue of making sure that the position goes to their party, because they have come to convince themselves after a long time. Otherwise, they would need to make a clarification to the public. And this one can be counted as a political hypocrisy against the SPLM-IO.
Yes.
Because they rejected the idea of swapping the two ministries since March. How many months? You can count March, April, May, June,
6 months.
July, August, now September. How many months? 7 months. After 7 months, the SPLM-IO came to reconcile with the idea of swapping two ministers. Now, you can look back to the recent statement, the statement which was issued on the violations of the peace agreement before the president traveled to New York City to participate in the UN General Assembly.
Yeah.
The issue of swapping the two ministers is there in that letter. It was counted as one of the violations of the agreement by the SPLM-IO, and now they accepted to be given the Minister of Finance, Minister of Interior. Another question is, why wasting time? If you knew that you were not going to achieve or you were not going to reach an agreement on this, why wasting 7 months, leaving that ministry empty without anyone or any minister running it? That is the questions. These are some questions. And so the SPLM-IO seem to be happy here with the violations of the agreement. And so you get confused when you are following the IO things, the IO political issues. You get confused. Some other time, they complain against the violations of the agreement, and we stand with them here. Some other time, they accept the violations of the agreement.
Correct.
So you get confused. What are they really after?
Interesting.
You know, was it early this month or last month? I think that was in August. They boycott the parliamentary sitting. They boycotted the sessions of the parliament. But when they were paid, they went back to the parliament silently. You remember? The members of parliament were given $30,000 US. They received the first installment, which is 15,000.
Yes.
And recently, they were given
another 15,000.
The remaining 15,000 US. So they received that money and they went back to the parliament without making any statement to clarify the matters to the public. So this is the IO. This is political hypocrisy. You get confused. What are they really after? Anyway, this could be a politics of the end justifies the mean. I think I'm done with this. Now, the United Nations mission in the country said that 395 civilians are killed in the country in the second quarter of this year. And this statement by the United Nations mission in the country comes after the visit, after the recent trip of the president to New York, in which he said that they are doing their best to make sure that security is that the security situation in the country is stabilized. So the United Nations mission has to come up with this figure to counterattack what the president said. And that's what we said last week, that Mr. President is not going to tell anything to Antonio Guterres because he is already aware of the situation in South Sudan through the United Nations mission in South Sudan. But I doubt this number, 395.
It could be more.
We did not count those who were killed in Abyei, in the conflict between Abyei and Tweed. How many were killed? And those who have been recently killed in the Annual Glen, in Koshala, and those who died in different parts of Equatoria, you cannot count them. So if we have to follow the statistic, the number is bigger than this one. It's bigger than this 395 civilians. This report by the UN mission in the country is an indication that the security situation is not stable in the country. It is a reflection that security is not stable in the country and that the people of South Sudan continue to die under the current regime in the country. So the UN is sending out a message to the international community that this country is not stable.
Yep.
And I'm sure this one is right now in the UN Security Council. So this is a short comment on this issue. Now coming to the issue of the two neighboring countries, Kenya and Uganda, and the issue of the border.
Yes.
They are advancing into the territorial integrity of the Republic of South Sudan. And this is an issue that is renewable every time. And I believe that it would not come to an end soon. Why? Because of so many issues. If you look at South Sudan as a country, the political leaders are in disagreement, continual disagreement. The country is polarized along ethnic lines. And so there is disunity and there is lack of harmony between the political leaders on one side and between the citizens on the other side. So this one made the Republic of South Sudan vulnerable. The internal, there is no internal cohesion, or the internal front is not cohesive. So we are very weak as a country. We are weak as a government. We are weak as a people. And the neighboring countries knows about the nature of our internal affairs. Economically, we are weak because we are depending on those countries, as you said it rightfully earlier, Brother Jonko. We are depending on Uganda, we are depending on Kenya and other countries that are around us. We cannot produce anything. We depend on our neighbors. We are a market to our neighbors. Politically, our sovereignty is even questionable because South Sudan, if you look at South Sudan in its relation with Uganda, South Sudan looks like one of the counties of the Republic of Uganda. And the president of South Sudan looked like one of the district commissioners. And last year we read out a tweet by the first son of Uganda, Mahozi, in which he thanks his father for expanding their new empire. That was speaking volume, Brother John Core and the viewers. So South Sudan is being blackmailed economically by the neighbors. South Sudan is being blackmailed politically by her neighbors. South Sudan is being security-wise blackmailed by its neighbors. South Sudan is being blackmailed in exchange for her territorial integrity and the national resources that are in those areas. This is what is happening. And Uganda is taking lead in this. We don't mean to accuse Uganda, and we don't mean to speak negatively about Uganda as a people and a country, but we are speaking about the NRM regime, the regime that is in Uganda, the National Resistance Movement regime under General Museveni. They are the one blackmailing the government of South Sudan. That's why there are border incursions by the Ugandan People's Defense Forces into our own areas as we speak. They pitch their tents inside South Sudan in Kajukaji County. Their troops are inside South Sudan as we speak. 2 weeks before, the Kenyan troops also, or the Kenyan police, had a bloody confrontation in the Elimi Triangle with the citizens there. And you all remember that earlier this year in February and in March, there were issues of the border between South Sudan and Kenya. The issue of the Elimi Triangle. The Taposa people had to fight with the Kenyan police who are advancing to occupy the territorial integrity of our country. So this issue of the border, Brother Jonkor, is a very complicated issue, and the internal setup of the country cannot help the country to resolve this issue. Now, if you follow the statement by General Lul Roy Kong, the official spokespersons of the SSPDF, he stated to the media that the issue of the border is referred to a joint committee between Uganda and South Sudan to settle it. It means that our SSPDF have no capability to enter military confrontation with the Ugandan People's Defense Forces. Otherwise, if they do that, they would not gain the battle, and they would lose economically as long as we are a country that depends on the Republic of Uganda.
Yes.
Economically. And you talk about the Numili Juba road as being a lifeline road, an economic lifeline to the Republic of South Sudan. Yes. And also the Nadapal to Reed Juba road as also being another economic lifeline to the Republic of South Sudan coming from Kenya. So it is very clear that the neighboring countries are looking for resources. They are expanding their territories at the expense of the Republic of South Sudan. And South Sudan will do nothing as it stands divided, weak, and vulnerable. And the neighboring countries know this. That's why they are doing whatever they are doing now. Kenya is doing it, Uganda is doing it, Central African Republic is doing it, the Democratic Republic of the Congo is doing it, Sudan is doing it, but thank God Sudan is at war with itself now, and so the issue of advancing towards South Sudan is never a priority for them now. It is only Ethiopia that is not advancing toward the land of South Sudan. This is the situation we are in, and it is very sad. So my conclusion at this point is that South Sudan will do nothing except to follow the issue through the joint committees between the two countries and use diplomacy. Yet, we will still be blackmailed. This is what is happening. Why? Because our leaders are divided, we as a people are divided. And so a divided government And a divided people cannot confront any neighboring country with regard to the issue of the border and territorial integrity. And the history would blame our leaders because they are the cause of all this. During the time of war, the mighty SPLA was feared by everybody because there was unity among South Sudanese. Now there is disunity, there is polarization, there is lack of cohesion in the internal form. This is the situation we are in, and it is very unfortunate. It is not going to help us. So in summary, the signing of the controversial Elections Act by the president, we said earlier that this one could lead to war. But as the SPLMIO accepted the swapping of two ministers this evening by the appointment of Angelina as Minister of Interior, it seemed to me that they are politically surrendering and the SPLMIG would gain ground. They have succumbed, and you can read their future in the upcoming general elections if these elections are going to be really conducted. We appreciate the Minister of Finance for apologizing for the delay of our civil servants, our armed forces, and our diplomatic mission abroad. And at the same time, we pointed out that he is facing the internal complication within the government. And therefore, as somebody who is now trying to depict himself as an honest person, and there is no doubt about that, the internal complications of the government would not allow him to do his best in the Ministry of Finance. The clarification made by the minister on the issue of Caltic Oil Company, we said the government is not honest enough to bring in genuine investors to the country. And the government cannot be trusted in signing any deal with any investing company. We can no longer trust this government. We urge the government of Jonglei State to use the fund appropriated for educational purposes in the state, to use them accordingly. They need to fight corruptions. By accepting the appointment of Angelina to be the Minister of Interior, the SPLMIO has gave up on the issues of violations. And I'm criticizing them. I did actually criticize them, and they can defend themselves if they are in the room here or watching live video. They can come and defend themselves. They wasted 7 good months over the issue of the swapping, and finally they come to accept it. Also, they are not genuine, because why should it be Angelina again? It should have been someone else. It shows that Mashar is actually interested in maintaining his position in the government, that he is always there in the government. He is not after the implementation of the agreement. And they actually disappointed those of us who always speak in favor of the implementation of the agreement by this action. Well, there is one issue which I left out, and it is good that I remembered. The issue I left out is the issue of political conflict in Western Equatorial State between the Speaker of the House and the Governor. You are all aware that a week ago or so, the governor of Western Equatorial State, Mr. Alfred Futoyo Karaba, actually issued a statement or a letter. He sent a letter to the president, and the letter was a list of accusations, terrible accusations against the Speaker of the National Assembly, asking the president to relieve her from that position. And then the office of the Speaker backfired and accused Karaba of being a warmonger and of being a war criminal in Western Equatorial State. In his letter, he accused Kumba of trying to come up with something which he called a Zande nation, and that she was fighting along the border of South Sudan, Central Africa, and the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And in our view, we said this is a political conflict or a political dispute between politicians who are actually sons and daughters of the state. And it has an ethnic background. This political dispute, we said, should not involve communities. But when you read in the news, you find that the Azande youth are urging the President of the Republic and the first Vice President of the Republic to settle the conflict between Karaba and Kumba and their allies, or whoever is aligned to them. That's what is happening. And so this political dispute between leaders in Western Equatorial State is dangerous to the security and stability in that area. And leave alone this issue of security and stability, it is dangerous to peaceful coexistence between the communities in the state, because it has taken an ethnic turn. That is the dangerous part of it. And it should not be the community that should urge the presidency to find a solution between Nunu Kumba and Alfred Futoya. It should be the presidency actually taking initiative.
Yes.
To reconcile the two and make sure that there is no ethnic division in the state. But because the regime survived in divisions and creating bitterness and hatred among the people, that's why they are keeping quiet. It is a serious issue. I think I have spoken enough, Brother Jonkor. I will stop here. Back to you.
Thank you, Sazdeng Didayok, for laying out every single bulletin that we have in the program, explaining effectively to our people so they can understand what the country is facing. And actually, we had another, news that I forgot, to explain. Yesterday morning around 6 a.m., actually, there was a lockdown in Awil town by Governor Tonga Ken. Governor Tonga Ken is one of those, corrupt, governors in South Sudan, claiming that actually they were gun has been smuggled to northern Bahar Ghazal, coming from the north. So it's other way of terrorizing, the citizen for no reason. And I believe so is related. It's not because there is a gun that have been smuggled to Awil, but it maybe is related to interview that was given by Wei Aideng Ajak. And actually that's what triggered that. There is a fear always. Maybe they be thinking there is a collaboration between Wei Aideng Ajak and General Paul Malone. And also the interview that Lagos State Kwelagori spoke actually well, and he fearless, saying that actually I will not leave this country to anyone, and we will remain here to speak, whether they like it or not. It is a citizen duty and right to speak about the country. One thing are going wrong, we should not be asked to apologize, and we did not do anything wrong. And actually, I applaud him for speaking such a way. I'm so disappointed from Lagos State media for deleting that actual interview after it was posted. But I went back today to, check it, but unfortunately it was not there. Lagos State media, they are pro-government, and I believe so. Maybe that's why they deleted that. So this is another news, yes, that coming from northern Bahar al-Ghazal. There was a lockdown in Awil, and then the military, they were just harboring in the town and searching houses for no reason. But finally, nothing. We haven't. If there is a gun smuggling to the state or to the town, why are they not stopping that smuggle on the border? Why are they allowing those, to smuggling in? I said again, is another way of, intimidating citizen.
Donkor, I think that one happened in line with some rumors. There were some rumors that the RSF of the Sudan, that some of them are in South Sudan. It was rumored. Continue.
Yeah, rapid report, RFF, rapid support forces.
Rapid support forces.
Yeah, Damas area. But unfortunately, so people are just being terrorized for no reason. They wake up in the morning about their normal life. In northern Barghazal, in a Will town especially, there is no issues. Everybody's people are just suffering from, cost of living. That's the most big thing that affecting people there. But there is no such a violence actually taking place in them. But Tonga Kiantaman, of course, you get instruction from Kiir. And Kiir always, as I said, it survived when it dividing people. Something that it has done throughout the country. But the only place that did not succeed is northern Bahr Ghazal. But they are still trying hard, to find a way of dividing people, along the clans and along the counties and so forth. But you know what? I always, commended people of northern Bahr Ghazal for staying in one voice and not to be fighting among themselves, fighting one another for no reason, to kill a brother and a sister because of somebody sitting in J1. I think Ustad Dengid, we are done for now here on the Facebook, and I think we already cover everything, every bulletin of the program that we have today. And I think from here, I would like to close Facebook, and then we will transition to the clubhouse if some people wanted to weigh in.
Yes, Brother Jonkur, regarding the issue of a will, there is always fear of unknown.
Yes.
So there were rumors that the Sudan Rapid Support Forces elements were in South Sudan. And northern Bahr Ghazal state, Abyei, Warab, Unity, and even Upper Nile, these are the states which are in the frontier with Sudan. Plus what Jack said in his interview, I believe the government took it so seriously because it is something to do with security. Maybe they become suspicious because of the statement made by Uyai. That's why they entered houses, searching houses, and the security forces were all over the town.
Yeah, they did.
That could be the reason also.
Yeah, there was a lockdown actually. All the entire city was locked down. People
were not allowed to go out from their houses.
So, yeah, I think Dengit, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
Yes. So again, if you finish from here, we will conclude, and I think we already made the message that we wanted to send out. You covered most of it, and I did talk a lot, and the importance of actually Ethiopia being a country that we should make it the first ally and a strategic allies for South Sudan, not Uganda. Uganda, yes, we can be friendly, we can be okay with it, but always it's better to have an option. And that's why I focus more on Ethiopia, to have that highway built, coming through Pagak to Fallujah and to Malakal and Upper Nile. That actually can...
Yes, I would be glad to say a little about that one after your comments.
Yes,
thank you.
And actually that will boost. Even we are building a refinery, right, to refine the oil within South Sudan. That's a good project to have a refinery. This is what we have been saying for a very long time, that we need a refinery within the country, because for our own, consumption. We need to consume for the public consumption oil. We don't need to go and import oil from outside, and we are a production, country that produce petroleum. We should not go and bring a refined oil from outside. That actually it doesn't look good. But since we are going to refine oil within South Sudan, why not? We can export, a lot of oil to Ethiopia, because Ethiopia is a population of 100 million, and they need more actually. And building this highway from Ethiopia, going Pagak, Followage, and all this area to Malakal, that economic boost for the region, for the people living in Greater Upper Nile, okay, more opportunity for job. Tankers will take the oil to Ethiopia, and then we can use also the port of Djibouti, and that can lower the cost. Always can lower the cost. Having two options is better than having one option. With that, actually, Uganda has been intimidating and has been holding South Sudan hostage because of this lifeline, Juba Numali Road to Port of Lamo. And I think our people, they need to think critically in that, because this is a strategic plan that actually can rescue the country from being a deadlocked country. We are facing a lot of challenges always, and you can get out of these challenges by diversifying, your economy. Using the oil money, more to have more farm, modern farm, so we can produce food locally, and then we don't have to worry about all this stupid matoko, whatever, bringing from Uganda, and we can have our own, food produced locally and import, exporting the oil, and we can get hard currency, and the life will go, and there will be no more intimidation. These are such a thing that need to be done. Ethiopians are honest with such things, and they stood with people of South Sudan for a very long time, and these are the one that we should build strategic alliances. I think I want to give you an opportunity to weigh in before we conclude. Go ahead.
Thank you. Allow me to say that South Sudan diplomacy, and not only South Sudan, but diplomacy of any other country, must start with the immediate neighboring countries. Because in diplomacy, you don't go and make relations with countries that are far away without first having relationship with your immediate relatives. So our immediate neighbors. Our immediate neighbors are important in our diplomacy, be it Sudan or Ethiopia, Kenya, Uganda, Central African Republic, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and let me say the region, the entire region, East African region. These countries are very important for us, and they should actually be the core of our diplomacy. But then there are countries that should come first in terms of diplomatic relations. Indeed, there is no doubt that Uganda played a role during the liberation struggle. They played a role. The same thing with Kenya. Most of our leaders were in Kenya. Most of our people were in Uganda. During the 1970s, the Anyanya War, most of our people actually resort to taking refuge in Uganda, Congo, Ethiopia, and also Kenya. So these countries are very important for us as the Republic of South Sudan. But coming to Ethiopia, I would agree with you that Ethiopia is and should always be a very strong ally of the Republic of South Sudan, because Ethiopia actually stood with us during our difficult time twice. First in the 1970s, and they played a crucial role in the Addis Ababa peace talks until peace was finally concluded in 1972.
Yes.
This is a historic role that we cannot forget that the Ethiopian had played. Again, our second liberation struggle or movement was actually born and nurtured in Ethiopia. The Ethiopian offered us a sanctuary to stay there under the regime of Mengistu Haile Mariam until the fall of the regime in 1991, in May 1991. And then our people started to come back to Sudan. And then the movement shifted from Ethiopia to Kenya and Uganda. So this is a role that we cannot forget the Ethiopian have played. So I agree with you that South Sudan should have diplomatic ties with Ethiopia, and it should prioritize Ethiopia as number one strategic ally in the region. Second to that, Ethiopia is the seat of the African Union. So Addis Ababa is like the capital city of Africa. This one is also very important. Thirdly, we have a people inside Ethiopia, people who are actually South Sudanese.
Yep.
You have the Gambela region, it's part of us.
Yep.
We have people there. We have the Anuak people. We have the Nuer and the Anuak. And then we have other tribes like the
Kachipo.
The Kachipo, the Sani people, the Dongotono. If you go down to Eastern Equatoria, southeast of Eastern Equatoria, there are tribes that are sharing the border with Ethiopia along the South Sudanese, Ethiopian, and Kenyan border. There are communities there. So I agree with you in saying that Ethiopia should be number one strategic ally in the region. Of course, when we say this, it doesn't mean that we are going to exclude others such as Kenya or Uganda, Central African Republic, or Congo. Of course, they are very important. But what we are saying currently, based on the current geopolitics, Kenya and Uganda are mostly seen as countries that are blackmailing South Sudan for being a landlocked country, for knowing that South Sudan actually depends on them. And so this political blackmailing or this military and economic blackmailing is not acceptable. And we do hereby ask them in the spirit of brotherhood that you should stop this political, diplomatic, economic blackmailing, including military blackmailing. The issue of Uganda invading our land from time to time, the same thing Kenya is doing, is not acceptable. And we do understand they are looking for resources. That's why they are invading the Limit Triangle. That's why they are invading Kajukaji from time to time. And we have lost so many soldiers along the border. And we ask them that they should stop what they are doing. Otherwise, South Sudan will not cooperate with them as we should. Because as neighbors, we have to respect ourselves. We have to respect ourselves. So thank you, Brother Jonko.
Thank you indeed, Ustaz, indeed. And this is go back to what I said from the beginning. It requires wise leadership. Someone who's really planning, and with that, you will be thinking what you wanted to do. Because South Sudan being a landlocked country, you have to explore different, avenues to avoid, being squeezed like what's happening now to us. Because Kenya, Uganda, now they are squeezing South Sudan and holding South Sudan as a hostage, to get whatever they want. And this is exactly what Uganda is doing. And that's why I made such a statement. And I saw my brother was saying that, why would I make that statement? We are part of East Africa. Yes, we are part of East Africa. But if they don't see that, and if they feel like they own South Sudan, and then always bilateral relationship is based on mutual interest. But if you don't see my interest, and if you just wanted to squeeze me simply because you don't see that I don't have any other options, and then there is no meaning for that relationship. We are not undermining Uganda, as I said from the beginning. Uganda are great allies to South Sudan, but we need to have that, options in case, in like this case now. What happening? Why not? We can even construct the pipeline. Go ahead.
We are talking about Uganda from the perspective of the NRM.
Correct.
NRM governments, which is actually having bilateral or mutual ties between Uganda and South Sudan. If this government change, we don't expect that the next government would behave like the NRM government now. Because when government are changed, they come with new policies. They come with the spirit of looking for new friends in a good spirit.
Correct.
So we are talking about a Uganda that is now under NRM government, not Uganda as a country or as a people. And we don't intend to speak negatively about Uganda because they are our neighbors and they are, of course, important.
Yes.
But what we are saying is that we are protesting against this economic military blackmailing. That's what we are protesting against. It's not acceptable. And we are saying you Ugandan government, behave yourself. Otherwise, you are going to be isolated until a new government comes. Because what does it mean that we are neighbors and you are invading my land? What does it mean that we are neighbors and you are blackmailing me economically? What does it mean? It means you want to create tension between the two countries. It means you are exploiting my weakness, my internal weakness.
They are. Well, thank you.
I hope those Ugandans who are listening to us should take our message seriously, because we are not happy with the issue of our land being invaded, our people displaced, and our soldiers killed from time to time. If we are really good neighbors, the government of the Republic of Uganda should stop being hostiles against the Republic of South Sudan. If the government of Kenya is indeed genuine, they should adhere to the spirit of bilateral ties between the two countries. And those bilateral ties should be amicable. They should be based on cooperation, not on adversary and hostility. Are you there, Brother Jonkor?
I am here. I was just waiting if you are done from there, and then we can be able to close the Facebook, and then we can give a little bit of time in Clubhouse.
I like the way you concluded the show by bringing the issue of bilateral ties between South Sudan and her neighbors, because this is an important issue.
Yes,
we are actually expressing our dissatisfaction over the Ugandan military advancement into our land, the Kenyans' advancement into our land, to occupy our land and displace our people, kill our soldiers. And this killing is frequent from time to time. We are against this. And we are talking. We want the region to hear our voices. And even those of the IGAD and even the African Union should interfere to stop this unjustifiable hostility against South Sudan. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Sadengdira Yog, and I really like to thank whoever tuned in here on Facebook and YouTube, to watch this live episode today. We have numerous, issues that we discuss. Thank you for being there always. Thank you and spreading the message. I want you to go ahead and share our live broadcast. Nothing, then thank you for being here always and supportive. This is our country, and we must talk about the issues that are affecting our people. With that, I would like to conclude here in Facebook, and then we'll move from here to a clubhouse, and then we can give to a few people who wanted to weigh in their perspective, and then we can conclude for the day. Thank you so much. Have a lovely night from here on Facebook.